ये भी नहीं होता है, देखना पड़ेगा को पहले लगता था मुझे बात
बहुत घटिया वाला बनाना है। एनसीईआरटी आपका नहीं है। नो ये कॉम्बिनेशन सिस्टम क्वेश्चंस वाले टॉपिक में explain the process of oxygen in carbon. Question I think मैंने लगा ही था मैंने क्वेश्चंस लिखे हैं मैं ये बताऊं क्या बोलेगा
मुझे वैसे देखना
क्या बोलेगा ना मुझे भी क्या है क्या मतलब वो मैं भूल गया मैं भी सेम चीज बोलूंगा बस मैं पेंसिल उठाया था
तो नीचे से लॉक कैसे करेंगे
वो नीचे
और जब ऊपर का बैग देखा गया तो प्रॉपर्ली नीचे का तो बोर्ड निकला है
लाइक दिस हो
हाँ हो गया इससे लग रहा है वैसे होगा
यस
बस इजी से लगेगा ऐसे हो रहा है
तो तुम्हारा ये सबसे
नीचे से बेंड हुआ है
डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम क्या होता है आप थोड़ा हां मैं स्क्वीज करो मैं कभी-कभी बोल सकता हूं
लेकिन क्या बोल सकता है
स्क्वीज करो ये तो बोला है स्क्वीज लानी
तुम्हें कौन सा किया
मैं सब रानी के नाम में जोड़ना पसंद करता हूं ये हो रहा है वाले लाइन में
हो रहा है तो वहीं से इसको सब लेके जाओ क्या फायदा हो गया खत्म है व्हाट इज दैट उसने बोला नीचे का पार्ट है वो ऊपर के मैं सोच रहा हूँ जाऊंगा वो पता है क्या मतलब ज्यादा मेरे को सेंटर रेफरेंस चाहिए जैसे कि मैं सीरीज लेट आउट तो बचपन में ऐसे सोचता है
वापस वो कर देना चाहिए ऐसा डायग्राम बनाया वो ठीक है वापस का नाम एफडीडी करा
हां
way करने का देखिए
English.
मैंने बहुत सारी चार्ट डायग्राम बनाया एक तो अब लेते हैं कि पहले आप ये इंसान नहीं वही सप्लाई नेशनल कैविटी नेशनल कैविटी मैं नाक के अंदर जो कैविटी है ना नाक के अंदर कैविटी है तो बेसिकली नाक के अंदर पानी से नाक तो नेशनल कैविटी बेसिकली हार्ट को बहुत जल्दी हो जाता है जो हो गया उसको भाई मैं भी खुशी लगा बड़ा डाला वो शोकर है उसके भाई ऐसा बंदा सभी रेटेड नहीं हो रहे वो एक्चुअली में उसके पास एक और चीज है और चीज है गुड मॉर्निंग
How are you all? Enjoying? Huh? Enjoying? No? Enjoying? No? क्यों? कितना अच्छा लग रहा है? What has happened? Mom is making you study. Jesus, mom is not like that.
He is a teacher.
Definitely. तो 10th में आके पढ़ाई नहीं करना तो क्या करना? ब्रेक मिल रहा है ना? After 2 hours break. यहाँ से जाने के बाद, तो
2 hours then study.
2 hours lunch होता है, टीवी होता है, फोन होता है. उसके बाद पढ़ाई. आप ये पढ़ाई करोगे तो नेक्स्ट मे में स्माइल करोगे. अगर नेक्स्ट मे में रोना है तो अभी रिलैक्स करो. कैसे आ रहे हैं मार्क्स? ठीक है? हाँ. What about the rest? क्या टेस्ट हुआ अब तक?
Chemistry and math. 2 maths.
2 maths हो गया, केमिस्ट्री बायो का टाइम है. Physics हुआ?
Physics होगा. Physics होगा next week होगा.
So far, whatever chapters are done, how comfortable you all are?
I have a doubt in exchange of flexibility.
And explain. बाकी जो भी पोर्शन हो चुका है, बाकी सारे सब्जेक्ट्स whatever you are enrolled for, जा रहा है अच्छा सब? अच्छा तभी जाएगा when you will also read. What happened? Why you are sitting like a statue? क्या हो गया? ठंडी लग रही है? एक AC ऑफ कर दो ना. जाने मुझे क्या? Now we have finished with respiration. Did we complete with that part of the chapter? Respiration complete हुआ? What was the last topic?
Phases of respiration. Phases like the ordination cellular oxidation.
हाँ, gaseous exchange हो गया था ना पिछले दिन? Complete हो गया. So I think one activity only left that we have to discuss so far respiration. अच्छा एक ही रिमोट से है क्या ये? टेम्परेचर बढ़ा दो नहीं तो? Put one fan, if the regulator is working, एक fan on करो. And AC थोड़ा देर, हाँ? अभी ऑफ कर दो. I think she's feeling too cold. एक लाइट जैकेट तो पहन के आया करिए, इसलिए स्ट्रॉन्ग पहन के आओ, कंफर्टेबल फॉर यू. Okay, now the concept of transpiration, I'm sorry, what is it? Gaseous exchange, no?
Yes.
Did you all go through the concept of gaseous exchange to understand? What did we understand so far? The process of respiration. For the process of respiration, we had understood the main parts of the respiratory system. Today we are going to start with the transportation part of the chapter. So we had studied about the concept of respiratory system. What is that muscular sheet which placed at the base of the lungs, and that is diaphragm. The muscular sheet placed at the base of the lungs is the diaphragm. The bony covering, the ribs. What is the definition of breathing? Definition of breathing was?
Taking in of air and giving out of carbon dioxide.
Nay, again you are saying the same thing. Taking in of air into the lungs and giving out of air from the lungs. Carbon dioxide, oxygen, breathing के definition में लिखना नहीं है. So taking in of air into the lungs and giving out of air from the lungs, that is breathing. So we had studied with reference to breathing, how does the lungs get inflated, how does the lungs become squeezed. Certain set of events we had studied, one by one, what happens, how does the air get filled into the lungs, and in this process the ribs and the diaphragm play a major role. During the process of inhalation, what happens to the diaphragm? Diaphragm contracts and becomes flat. And what happens to the ribs? Upward. The ribs move outward, upward. Which are those muscles on the inner region of the ribs? Intercostal muscles. Muscles present on the inner region of the ribs, intercostal muscles. So what I asked you for in inhalation, that would be just the opposite if I talk about exhalation. For exhalation, the ribs will be backward, downward, and the diaphragm will be curved and relaxed. Okay, so those events just go through, read. Then after the concept of breathing, we were talking about the special features, characteristics of the air sacs of the lungs. What are the air sacs of the lungs known as? Alveoli, alveolus. Prominent blood vessels that supply blood to the lungs. Now, if I have to talk about the blood which is moving towards the lungs, what is the nature of the blood? Deoxygenated. Which is the vessel which carry deoxygenated blood? Pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs. And then after the process of exchange of gases, so if you understand this particular figure, what is this particular figure? It is about the arrangement of the alveolus. Surrounding the alveolus, huge number of blood vessels. So that means the lungs or the alveolus are richly supplied with blood vessels. And on top of that, every single alveolus has got a very thin wall which favors the process of diffusion. So presence of blood vessels and thin wall very much helping in the process of diffusion. To understand that now that the blood is moving, see here from this figure, if you see the blood that is moving towards the alveolus is shown in blue, meaning carbon dioxide concentration is high, deoxygenated. And as the blood is passing through the alveolus, the blood is now becoming oxygenated. As the blood passes through the alveolus, it is progressively shown that it is now becoming red in color, meaning it is picking up oxygen from the alveolus and it is becoming oxygenated. I explained it the other day. Very clearly to remember, oxygenated blood always means blood which has got a higher concentration of oxygen. blood which has got a lesser concentration of oxygen and more of carbon dioxide, deoxygenated. So now which blood vessel you can understand this as? Pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein. What was your doubt? Gaseous exchange, you said?
How does hemoglobin work?
Hemoglobin. Where is hemoglobin present? First of all, you should remember. In this blood, never mind it is deoxygenated blood, but the blood will always have the RBCs. So see here the RBCs are shown. The RBCs. Now these RBCs will always contain a particular pigment. What is that pigment that the RBCs will contain? The pigment that the RBC contains is hemoglobin. RBCs doesn't have nucleus. Instead, they have got the hemoglobin inside. So this RBC, which has got a huge amount of hemoglobin, will have an attraction for the oxygen molecules. They have got an attraction, affinity, that is also termed as such. So the oxygen which is now filled in the alveolus will always have a tendency of moving towards the blood vessel, kyunki here oxygen is more, here oxygen is less. A simple process of diffusion is happening. But the moment the oxygen is moving from here to here, what is happening to that oxygen? It binds with hemoglobin of the RBC, forms a temporary compound oxyhemoglobin, and the oxyhemoglobin is present in the blood. Present in the blood meaning where in the blood? In the RBC. Oxyhemoglobin is not present in the liquid part of the blood. It is inside the RBC present. So as these RBCs are moving, or we would say as the blood is moving, the blood is carrying oxygen in the form of oxyhemoglobin. Now that this blood comes in contact with body tissues, I explained you the other day with a sequence of diagrams. So now that the blood comes in contact with the body tissues. Earlier I showed you exchange between the alveolus and the blood. And this is the blood and the tissues, cells of the tissues. So what is happening? Now that the blood is coming, RBCs are loaded with oxyhemoglobin. The moment the blood comes near the tissues, oxygen and hemoglobin will part. Where will hemoglobin be? In the blood. Where will oxygen be? Towards the tissue cells. So the oxygen is constantly moving towards the tissue cells. But then what will be the job of the oxygen inside these single cells? Oxygen will break down that glucose which is present in the body cells. Glucose breaking down with the help of oxygen to release carbon dioxide and energy, a process known as cellular respiration, also known as aerobic respiration. The basic concept is aerobic respiration, specifically cellular respiration. Why the word cellular respiration? Respiration typically means breakdown of glucose. Why the word cellular? Inside the cell. What is the result? What is the product? Carbon dioxide and energy. So this carbon dioxide, which is so much present in the cells, is diffusing towards the blood, because here carbon dioxide more, here carbon dioxide less. So the carbon dioxide is now diffusing towards the blood. But here I told you something different as in comparison with the transport of oxygen. When I say oxygen is moving from the RBC towards the cells, when I say oxygen transporting from the alveolus to the blood, I told you all the oxygen combines with hemoglobin. But when the carbon dioxide is moving from the cells towards the blood, is it that all the carbon dioxide binds with hemoglobin? Then what happens? What is remaining in the plasma? What is the role of what is the difference of carbon dioxide and hemoglobin bonding as compared to oxygen and hemoglobin? Oxygen all will bind with hemoglobin. I go back to the previous figure. Oxygen comes towards the blood, all of it gets bonded with hemoglobin. But if I have to talk about that, now that carbon dioxide is coming from the cell towards the blood, all of it doesn't get bonded with hemoglobin, only a small fraction. Only a small fraction of carbon dioxide will get bonded with hemoglobin. Then what about the major amount? The major amount remains as carbonic acid, bicarbonate ions. Kahan pe? not in the RBC, in the plasma, liquid part of the blood में dissolve हो जाता है. In the form of carbonic acid, the carbon dioxide is dissolved in the plasma. Now, since it is dissolved in the plasma, lungs के साथ कोई relation नहीं हो सकता. Because respiratory gases are carried only by the RBCs. So never mind, when we are talking about carbon dioxide transport, RBCs play a role, but the blood plasma also plays a role. But when I talk about oxygen transport, RBCs plays the sole role. RBCs lead role. Then this carbon dioxide comes to the RBCs, forms a temporary compound with hemoglobin, a large amount dissolved in the blood plasma. But how will the carbon dioxide from the blood go to the lungs? Again, during the course of exhalation, the carbon dioxide from the blood will go to the alveolus, lungs, and release out during the process of exhalation. So this particular process that we understand, what is the respiratory pigment we have been talking about here? Hemoglobin. What is the role of hemoglobin? Binding with oxygen, binding with carbon dioxide and transporting oxygen from the lungs to the blood, blood to the cells, and carrying the carbon dioxide from the cells to the blood and blood to the lungs. So the route, the pathway for oxygen and the pathway for carbon dioxide is just the opposite. From way to way is oxygen moving from the lungs to the body cells, and way to way carbon dioxide is moving body cells to the lungs. Clear hai? Next, we had studied about the concept of this. Is this part clear? The concept of aerobic and anaerobic respiration, all these things are clear? Doubt are going? About that lime water activity, did we discuss, Dekho?
Yes.
We had discussed.
Yes. Lime water, yes.
Show me your volume. Check out if you have solved these questions. I think I must be what is it? 8 minutes. Take some questions. Check if you are done with this, then we proceed. If not, then we have to first finish. I think we are done with this.
Yes. I have the question that I have ticked mark in the volume we have done.
Already done, right? Yeah. These are already done. So we are done with these questions. Take page number 171. Page 171, 27, sub number 1. 171, 27, sub number 1, sub number 2. Number 28. Number 28. Go to page 172. Number 28 already I told you. Then go to nutrition. Go to nutrition. Question number 1. Question number 1, ABC. And number 2. Number 2. Nutrition number 1, number 2. (173) respiration number. Respiration. No, these are all transportation questions. Okay, complete this only, right? As of now, complete this. Page 171, 27. Go to the next page, 28. Next is nutrition, question number 1 and question number 2. Start. Write down these answers in the notebook. Each one of you have to write these answers in the notebook. Take out your notebooks and neat, nice, complete. And listen until it is those. If it is a diagram, I don't think it's a diagram-based question now. If it is not a diagram-based question, then if it is a diagram-based question, then you can label the parts and everything in the textbook in the volume. Otherwise, answers nice, neat, with points have to be written in the notebook. Nutrition number 1C, I will give you the answer. The rest all the questions you should be able to. Alright. I will discuss with the answers. See this. Nutrition 1C only I will give you the answer. That's a different concept a little bit. Rest you should be able to answer. Wherever there's a doubt, ask, clarify, and then write.
Ma'am, 27, second question, B part.
What is it?
27, second question, B part.
27.
Give reasons for the following. Lungs always contain a residual volume of air.
Because the process of gaseous exchange should be carried out always. What is residual air? The other day I told you, whenever you are exhaling, whenever we exhale, are we to understand that the lungs are all empty? No. 500 ml of the air is always there in the lungs even after forceful exhalation also. That is what is residual air. So why should that residual air always should be there? So why should that? So that the process of gaseous exchange is going on. It's a continuous process. Write out this answer. I will give you proper frame this answer if you like.
Photosynthesis.
Definition
For the formula.
12 page.
There is for everything just H2 we can also
Then 12H2 and 6H2 that side. Because water is always a raw material. Water is always a raw material. So you'll have to write that. Go through the questions, the answer that you are not aware of, you have a doubt, clarify, and then you write. Okay, which question is this? Let me give you this answer. Which question is this one?
27, second question B part.
27, B part. Just write down the question, all of you. What is that question, Rita?
Give reason for the following.
What is it?
27. Why is the respiratory pigment needed in a multicellular organisms with a large body size?
Acha, what is it? Why is a respiratory pigment necessary for a multicellular organism? We are also multicellular organism with large body size. An elephant is also a multicellular organism with large body size. But complexity is almost the same. Functional complexity, if I check, it is almost the same. So why is a respiratory pigment necessary? What are the points you are supposed to write? Respiratory pigment helps in binding with respiratory gases such as oxygen and carbon dioxide. So now you can part your answer and write. So what would be the first part? Respiratory pigment, that is hemoglobin, binds with oxygen at the respiratory surface, meaning near the lungs, at the respiratory surface, and transports oxygen to the body tissues. From the body tissues, the hemoglobin picks up carbon dioxide and transports it to the lungs to be released out from the body. So this concept you will have to write. Will you be able to write on your own? So and first you give 2 lines of introduction and then part your answer. First part में focusing, emphasizing on hemoglobin, write down oxygen transport. Second part, focusing on hemoglobin. Now don't write about carbonic acid and all these things. No need. Focus, because the question is focusing on respiratory pigment. So now write down about the carbon dioxide transport. After that, another 2 more lines to write. Why the concept of multicellular? Complete ये 2 paragraph खुद से लिखने की कोशिश करो. Oxygen transport and carbon dioxide. In just 5-6 lines, you should wind up. Ligo. Right, all of you make an attempt to write. Last 2 conclusion part I will give it. All of you write oxygen transport. How hemoglobin helps in oxygen transport. And next paragraph, carbon dioxide transport.
Now, can different organisms have their own different respiratory pigment?
Yes. Yes.
So, differ from animal
Not too many types animal kingdom has. It is just 2-3 types only. If I talk about some invertebrates, they have got a blue color pigment. Some blue color pigment. Some has got some yellow color pigments, light yellow color pigment. But it is not too many varieties which are there in the animal kingdom. Just few. But yes, the most efficient one is hemoglobin. No, they are vertebrates, they are mammals like us, they have got the same components, same structure, same function like us.
So, we have hemoglobin.
They have hemoglobin in their blood. Oxygen transport, are you able to write on your own?
Yes, ma'am.
All?
I understood your process, so I don't know how to write.
हाँ, तो ये सीखना है.
Yeah, that's one thing.
Concept समझ में आता है. There are many students, they understand the concept but they are not able to put it in words.
Yeah,
हमारे पास कोई scanning machine तो है नहीं. We give you marks based on what you write. तो वो लिखना that you have to understand. कैसे लिखूं, क्या लिखूं. Because those of you are not able to frame the answer, but हमेशा I will not give you enough to write. I explained it, you should be able to write a book. Write down. The respiratory pigment known as hemoglobin. The respiratory pigment known as hemoglobin present in RBCs. Respiratory pigment known as hemoglobin present in RBCs has a great affinity for oxygen. Affinity meaning attraction. Has a great affinity for oxygen. Has a great affinity for oxygen. Full stop. Hemoglobin binds with oxygen. Hemoglobin binds with oxygen. Where does it bind? Where does it break? That has to be very clearly mentioned in your answer. Hemoglobin binds with oxygen at the respiratory surface. At the respiratory surface. Hemoglobin binds with oxygen at the respiratory surface, forming a temporary compound known as yes, absolutely. At what time you slept last night? तो इतना नींद क्यों आ रहा है? Forming a temporary compound, oxyhemoglobin. Full stop. Blood circulates oxygen in the form of blood circulates, transports, any of these words you can use. Blood circulates oxygen in the form of oxyhemoglobin. Full stop. Near the tissues, oxyhemoglobin breaks. Near the tissues, oxyhemoglobin breaks down and oxygen is supplied to the tissues. And oxygen is supplied to the tissues. Oxygen is supplied to the tissues. Full stop. Next paragraph. The tissue cells utilize oxygen. Tissue cells utilize oxygen for breakdown of glucose. Releasing carbon dioxide and energy. Carbon dioxide diffuses. Next line. Carbon dioxide diffuses from tissue cells towards the blood. Carbon dioxide diffuses from the tissue cells. the tissue cells towards the blood, comma, a small fraction of carbon dioxide binds with hemoglobin. A small fraction of carbon dioxide binds with hemoglobin, forming a compound. Binds with hemoglobin, forming a compound. Full stop. This compound of hemoglobin and carbon dioxide, breaks down
This compound of hemoglobin and
carbon dioxide, meaning the bond breaks down. So we can write in short, breaks down at the respiratory surface. And carbon dioxide diffuses. क्या लिखना है? Towards alveolus lungs, alveolus, and carbon dioxide diffuses towards the alveolus. Carbon dioxide diffuses towards the alveolus. ठीक है? आया समझ में? So the focus is, the question is stressing on respiratory pigment. So you have to write down in short about the role. Last 2-3 lines, right? A respiratory pigment is essential. A respiratory pigment is essential in complex multicellular organisms to transport respiratory gases to each and every body cell. Transport respiratory gases to each and every body cell. Okay, so unless and until there is a respiratory pigment, but why there is no need of any respiratory pigment? Now, say suppose I talk about small simple organism, not the amoeba. I'm not talking about a single cell organism, but I may think of a sponge, a coral, which are also multicellular, but they are few cells. They are not having any organs and systems like us. When I think of a multicellular organism, which type of organisms we start with? Mammals तो बहुत complex हो गया. If I talk about multicellular organisms, जिनके body में body fluid है, this is right start from the annelids. Annelids meaning the earthworms and all. And yes, that same group but a different category. So when I'm talking about right from these earthworms and all, which are invertebrates, but they are considered as multicellular, meaning they have got organs, they have got systems. Body में जैसे ही organs and systems है, body fluid is a must. Pigment is a must. क्यों? Because that pigment will have to pick up the carbon dioxide from the tissues and bring it to the lungs or the other respiratory structures. Take the oxygen from the respiratory surfaces and go and give it to every particular cell. Otherwise, how will this organism, multicellular organism, how would the cells get the oxygen? Release the carbon dioxide. But if I talk about some multicellular but simple multicellular, having just merely 100 cells in its body. If I talk about some sponges in the water, if I talk about small simple organisms like the hydra, they are also simple, but they are multicellular. But they don't have any pigments in their body, they don't have any transporting system in their body. क्यों? Because उनकी body में cells तो है, few tissues भी है, but they don't have any complex organs and systems. So without a fluid, without a respiratory pigment, they can manage. The water entering their body, most of them are aquatic. The water entering their body can supply oxygen, and the water exiting out of their body can take out carbon dioxide and other waste. So this process that they can survive. But the moment I talk about terrestrial animals, meaning land animals, and right from the time I talk about the annelids, meaning the earthworms and the leeches and the insects, and then the fishes and the birds, definitely there is a need of body fluid pigment because complexity is more. Organs, systems, so many tissues, thousands and millions of cells. That's right. The other question, let us complete with that. Did you all reach till that question which I said I'll give you the answer number C? I told you, know which one?
Number C. 27.
Did you reach till there?
Yes.
Done? बाकी पहले के सारे हो गए? All of you?
You are using this question.
Only for C you will leave some space, half a page. बाकी सारे you will have to do it on
Even
your own.
use it to 27 part 2.
What is that question?
Keep reasonable following.
Acha, that residual volume. No? Write that question. Write it 27, 21 मत लिखो. Write the question and the answer. So straight, ready. These are some difficult indirect questions only I am picking up and I am giving you notes. ज़्यादातर जो elementary है straight basic questions I will not give you that you should be able to write. So इसके 27, 21 number नहीं लिखो. Write down the question so that straight away during the exam you can go through. अच्छा ये question है ये answer है. The 27, 21 during the exam you keep on searching which one is 27, which one is 21. Don't write that. Write down this typical question that we are discussing. Question notebook में लिखो then only I will give you the answer. Otherwise I will not give it. Okay, the question says what? How is the frame? Let me just check.
Particles are present in the throat.
Give reasons. कौन सा validity? नहीं.
Ma'am, B वाला. It was lungs always contain a residual volume.
अच्छा हाँ. Lungs always contain a residual volume of air. Let me just discuss this. After that, the rest of the answers I will check with you all. You should have written. Lungs always contain a residual volume of air. Right now. Residual volume of air refers to the amount of air. Residual volume of air refers to the amount of air within bracket you write approximately 500 ml. Within bracket approx 500 ml. Residual volume of air refers to the amount of air left in the lungs even after forceful exhalation. Even after forceful exhalation. Full stop. This is necessary because the air present in the lungs will carry out gaseous exchange continuously till the next phase of carry out continuously till the next phase of inhalation. till the next phase of inhalation. अगर alveolar air नहीं होता, then every time you exhale, and maybe now in 2-3 seconds, 3-4 seconds time you are inhaling again, तो 4 seconds तक gaseous exchange body में बंद होता. But our body we are complex multicellular organisms, so 4 seconds, 3 seconds तक gaseous exchange अगर body में बंद होगा, then so many different type of processes will slow down. The heart muscles will suffer from a deficiency of oxygen and beating rate of the heart will slow down. So about 2-3 seconds also matters a lot when we are talking about complex processes in our body. So what is the first one? Rings of cartilage are present in the throat.
So prevented from collapsing.
Rings of cartilage are present in the throat. Now, rings of cartilage are present in the throat. The most appropriate question is rings of cartilage present in the trachea. There is. What is the answer I told you? To prevent collapsing of the trachea even after exhalation. Write down your answer using all the specific words. To prevent collapsing of the trachea, that is the windpipe. Prevent collapsing of the, collapsing meaning squeezing down. Prevent collapsing of the trachea even after exhalation. Number B we are done. Number C is what? This also you should know. 3 का आंसर, C का आंसर कौन बोलेगा? The last boy there, tell me. C, पढ़ो. I will ask you individually now. How we are using.
The diaphragm flattens and ribs are lifted up when we breathe.
So reason देना है. Give reason, and your give reason answer should be not more than 4-5 lines. बोलो. क्या लिखना है?
When we inhale oxygen from the environment, the lungs expand due to the pressure of the oxygen, due to which the ribs are uplifted.
Concept clear नहीं है. The question says the diaphragm, no? The diaphragm is flattened. That is what it is mentioning. The diaphragm flattens and ribs lifted up when we breathe in. ये answer just 2 lines में खत्म हो सकता है. Don't start right from the beginning. एकदम basic concept लिखने का practice करो. क्या लिखना है यहाँ पे?
यहाँ पे the
diaphragm is lifted up
due to the exhalation of the air, and the ribs.
You are writing a give reason question. Reason क्यों? Diaphragm lift up क्यों हो रहा है? Diaphragm, I'm sorry, ribs lift up क्यों हो रहा है? And the diaphragm, why is it getting flattened? ये
the lungs are expanding.
हाँ. और थोड़ा सा और lungs are expanding. तो इसके पहले क्या लिखोगे? चलो, not a problem. I'll come to you again.
Because we are inhaling the air, so the air, the space expands.
हाँ, to increase the space of the chest cavity.
The diaphragm flattens and ribs move upwards to create room for the expansion of lungs.
To increase the space for the chest cavity. Increase the space for the chest cavity. Increase the space of the chest cavity. तो ये concept लेना है. Then only the lungs will fill in it. जब तक space नहीं बढ़ेगा, the lungs will not be able to fill in it. So what is the sentence that you should write? The ribs are lifted up, the diaphragm is flattened to increase the space of the chest cavity to enable or to allow the filling up of air in the lungs. To allow the filling up of air in the lungs. Question को हमेशा approach करना सीखो. Learn how to identify what is the question asking. Quite a number of times students would read the question. अच्छा breathing है, चलो whatever I have learned and know सब कुछ लिख देना है. No, mark है 1 mark. Give reason question में 1 mark है. लिखना कितना है? Not more than 2-3 lines. But वो 2-3 lines में you have to express all your concept. ठीक है, वो हैबिट करो. Go to the next. Number B हो गया, C is done. D. One of the alveoli contain an extensive network of blood vessels. This side. Girls, कौन बोलेगा?
Carry out process of oxygenation.
हाँ, you are approaching. उसके बाद break क्यों लग गया? अच्छी तरह से जा रही थी. To carry out the process of
Cellular oxidation.
exchange of gases, diffusion. Okay, so the question देखो. Wall of alveoli contain extensive network of blood vessels. This we have learned repeatedly. मैंने ये चीज बोला है. Wall of the alveoli contain a huge network of blood vessels to bring about efficient exchange of respiratory gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide, by the process of diffusion. So क्या लिखेंगे? To efficiently carry out the process of लिखो. To efficiently carry out the process presentation थोड़ा ध्यान दो अभी. Write neat, clear, अच्छी तरह से लिखो. Don't give shocks to your teacher who is correcting your paper. अच्छी तरह से लिखो. Presentation पे थोड़ा ध्यान दो. You all are 10th standard children now. Write neat, clear, proper way में लिखो. Whoever is correcting your paper, breathing rate उसका high नहीं होना चाहिए when looking into your paper. Okay. So now, what did I say?
To efficiently carry out the process
To efficiently carry out the process of exchange of respiratory gases. To efficiently carry out the process of.
I've written both of alveoli are richly vascularized. What about the process of gaseous exchange efficient?
हाँ, चलेगा. To carry out the process of exchange of gases efficiently. To exchange of gases efficiently by the process of or through the process of diffusion. Diffusion लिखना जरूरी है. By the process of diffusion. So this is done. Number 28. 27.
30 is already done.
We have done. Okay, 27 one. Sabka number 1 is done. Yes, I gave the answer. Now 28. Rate of breathing in aquatic organisms much faster than that of terrestrial pathway. This also I think we have done earlier. Nutrition. Okay, so 28 till they done all of you.
Yeah, you have to do the same.
Number 1. Nutrition number 1. What is it? Name and define the process. What is the process? Name. Photosynthesis. Define में क्या लिखना है? Basic definition of. So क्या? What is the definition? Definition of photosynthesis.
The plants make up their own.
The process by which
The process by which the plants make their
own food, utilizing क्या क्या चाहिए photosynthesis के लिए utilizing
chlorophyll.
chlorophyll. Carbon dioxide पहले लिखेंगे. Carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll and sunlight.
I've written in the present.
Yes. Carbon dioxide, water पढ़ो. Carbon dioxide, go through. Each one of you should go through what is done in the class. Otherwise, it makes no difference. मैं फिर से बोल रही हूँ, you are coming in the entire month of May. For your classes here, you could have gone jumping, hopping to Goa also, Lonavala also, Dubai also, but now you are sitting here, so that should be worth. Again, I tell you, your parents have spent a lot of money, that should be worth. So we are finishing our portion. I'll tell you by the end of the month of May, this entire huge long chapter life process will be already done. But how see? I generally, now every batch, our pace of teaching has become slow. Looking into the demand, don't feel bad, but this is for me in this last 14 years I am experiencing. Earlier by 15th of May हमारा एक दो chapter खत्म because portion भी ज़्यादा था. Now that the portion is reduced every year, your godfathers and godmothers are cutting down something. और syllabus में काटते अगले 5 साल में syllabus में क्या रहेगा भगवान जाने. कुछ रहेगा ही नहीं syllabus में. So earlier the syllabus was long, so in the month of May we used to finish up at least 2 chapters. By now I'll start teaching chemical coordination. Coordination on plants already started by 15. But now since portion भी थोड़ा कम है, we are going little bit slow. But उसका फायदा उठाना है. If you are not studying, open up your book, check क्या हुआ है class में. I again repeat, by the month of September you should be very comfortable. By that time September, October we are done with our syllabus here. So if you have not started, कोई मतलब ही नहीं है why you are coming and sitting out here. I hope you are understanding what I am speaking. आ रहा है समझ में? So keep थोड़ा करके पढ़ते रहो. Go through. Try solving questions. I am solving 10 questions in the class. You should also try solving even 5 more at home. Just try, go through the question. Do I know the answer? I don't know. I have to go and ask my mom the next class. So ये सारे subjects के साथ अगर ऐसे ही करोगे, then there is no problem at all. By the month of September, you are absolutely done. Okay, so although some of you have not yet started at all. Now which one we are doing? Nutrition. Process. So the definition is, when you write down the definition, what are the raw materials? All the 4 needs to be there.
Carbon dioxide,
Sunlight produces chlorophyll, produces organic food in the form of glucose. So product का main glucose word आना ही चाहिए answer ना. Chemical equation. For chemical equation, what are the raw materials, components, and what are the products? So you write carbon dioxide, 12 molecules of water, sunlight, chlorophyll, sunlight, and next is 1 molecule of glucose, 6 molecules of oxygen, 6 molecules of water. 6 molecules of water on the left side is wrong. 12 molecules of water, and because if I write 6 molecules of water on the left side, I cannot write water here. Product side में मैं water नहीं लिख सकती, but water is always a byproduct for photosynthesis. When you refer to some other books, when you refer to some other reference books and all, हो सकता है you will come across. Because this is what earlier was, that was the equation earlier. But now the recent concept is photosynthesis always releases water. So surplus water हमेशा चाहिए ही चाहिए. So that's why 12 molecules of water always. State the proper sequence of events that occur. Reduction of CO2 Write chemical equation in what that you wrote, no?
For C, the event of photosynthesis and during for developed plants. You have to give the answer for that. For the C part,
I have to give you that answer. Right now. Proper sequence of events that occur in the synthesis of food by desert plants. Now the synthesis of food sequence that helps in the process of photosynthesis. What we had understood, that was, remember those 3 steps? Yeah. Absorption of light, that take the reduction. That is for all the terrestrial plants. For the desert plants, it is a little bit different. CO2 is taken at night because the stomata will remain open during the night, closed at the daytime. So the process is a little bit different. And directly they don't give rise to glucose, they give rise to first an intermediate product. Then it is getting broken down. So you don't have to write so much in detail, but basic those sequence in short you have to write out. Write down the question. Answer. The first step, write down this, but here also I will shorten. Don't have to write all of it. Take down the question, answer you write. The steps involved are, point number 1, I will dictate, you follow. You don't have to copy everything there. The steps involved are, number 1. The steps involved are, number 1. Stomata remains closed during the day and open at night. Open at night to take in carbon dioxide. Point number 2. Carbon dioxide is reduced to form. Number 2, step 2, carbon dioxide is reduced to form malate. Just check the spelling. Carbon dioxide is reduced to form malate, also known as malic acid. You write only one term. Malate, which dissolves. Malate, which dissolves in the cell sap. Which dissolves in the cell sap. Which dissolves in the cell sap. Number 3, the malate is further transported. Malate is further transported to the chloroplasts. Malate is further transported to the chloroplast in the cytoplasm. Transported to chloroplast in the cytoplasm. Number 4. The malate is broken down to glucose. Malate is broken down. Malate is broken down in the chloroplast. You first, right? Malate is broken down in the chloroplast, comma, which combines with carbon dioxide to produce glucose, which combines in the chloroplast with carbon dioxide to produce glucose. Okay. So this much only you have to write. The detailed chemical equation, nothing is required. Number C, sub number 2 now. Go to that. What happens to the rate of photosynthesis at which the green plants prepare food during cloudy weather? What will happen to the rate of photosynthesis in the cloudy weather?
It will reduce.
The rate of photosynthesis will reduce. Give reason. Why?
Because the cloudy weather blocks out the supply of sunlight.
Because cloudy weather meaning low temperature. Low temperature will not allow activation of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll low temperature में activate ही नहीं होगा. So if the chlorophyll is not activating, the rest of the steps will not initiate. वो start ही नहीं होगा process. Right on that answer. ये reason है what happens to the rate of photosynthesis. You straight away write photosynthesis. What happens to the rate of photosynthesis during cloudy weather? That way you write down the question. What happens to the rate of photosynthesis? What happened? Tired हो गए? What happens to the rate of photosynthesis? What happened? सब सारे exhausted faces. हाँ? 10 दिन में तुम लोग का ये हालत हो गया. The first, second day when I met you all, your faces were all fresh and nice. 10 दिन में तुम लोग का ये हालत कैसे हो गया? No idea.
7:30.
तो 7:30 में स्कूल नहीं जाते हो? Next. Mostly you all go to school 7:30, no?
Early in the morning.
हाँ तो तुम्हारा तो 6:45 को स्कूल है.
Exactly.
Then
I sleep at bus now.
now you are going home by 2:30. You get evening में आराम से you get time to eat, sleep, 2 घंटा सो के उठ के भी by 7 o'clock you can start studying. 7 o'clock and I'm 105% sure all of you are not studying on every day. यहाँ से जाने के बाद क्रिकेट, स्विमिंग, फुटबॉल ये सभी होता है, नहीं होता? और मम्मी के साथ शॉपिंग, नहीं तो मूवी. Everything do. I'm not saying that मत करो. Everything you should do, but focus याद रखना कि today I went for shopping, I went for lunch, dinner सब करो. But every day का जो थोड़ा सा वो how you eat food, जितना भी कुछ हो जाए, lunch तो लेते ही हो, dinner में कुछ तो खाते ही हो ना, just like that. अगर वो mindset हो गया कि I do everything, I go for something with my friends and I enjoy movies, सब कुछ हो गया. But वो जो one hour I should finish this. The moment that has entered, बाकी किसी को कुछ बोलने का जरूरत, you will do your work. Okay. So what I told you this, which question do I?
Rate of photosynthesis.
Explain, give reason what happens to the rate of photosynthesis in a during cloudy weather. देखो, during cloudy weather, the low temperature and intensity of sunlight, low temperature and intensity of sunlight does not activate. Low temperature and intensity of sunlight does not activate chlorophyll. Does not activate chlorophyll. Full stop. Does not activate chlorophyll. Full stop. Chlorophyll inactivation. Chlorophyll inactivation will not initiate the process of photosynthesis. Chlorophyll inactivation will not initiate the process of photosynthesis. Next, give reason what happens to the rate at which, okay. What happens to the rate of photosynthesis when stomata get blocked with dust? Now, on the roadsides, on the roadside, the plants, do they look that fresh? No. They are layers and layers of dust over the leaves. The stomata blocked. So, do they look fresh? No, they don't look fresh. So, what must be the problem? Adequate diffusion of carbon dioxide cannot happen. So, adequate diffusion of carbon dioxide cannot happen, and that's the reason the rate of photosynthesis is much lower, even though the sunlight is there. Talk about these roadside plants, even though sunlight is there, but since the stomata blocked because of dust, diffusion of carbon dioxide is stopped. Right? What happens to the rate of photosynthesis when stomata gets blocked by dust? When the stomata are blocked by dust. Answer? When stomata are blocked, due to deposition of dust, the inward diffusion of carbon dioxide cannot take place. Inward diffusion of carbon dioxide cannot take place. Thus, process of photosynthesis is slowed down. Thus, process of photosynthesis is slowed down. Thus, process of photosynthesis is slowed down. Now, see number 2, the last question. 1 ml of starch solution, 2 test tubes A and B. Add 1 ml saliva to test tube A and leave the other undisturbed. Okay. So what is that? We take 1 ml of starch solution. Starch solution meaning any type of a flour mixed with water. So 2 test tubes, starch solution. The starch solution we are dividing in 2 test tubes. In 1 test tube we add small amount of saliva. Okay. So now when we are taking the 2 test tubes, 1 starch solution, the other saliva, and then we are adding now drops of iodine. Iodine is an indicator for
Starch.
starch. So what should happen? In 1 test tube I take a starch solution, put iodine. What should happen?
The solution will
Color will turn
blue.
black.
Blue black.
Color will not blue black. It will be bluish black, dark bluish it should be. The color is blue black. Why? Because iodine is an indicator. What is the color of iodine? I told you orange actually. Yellowish orange actually it is. Then how is it showing that blue black color? Because as a reaction, presence of iodine shows the presence of starch. Iodine shows the presence of starch, so it becomes blue black. Add 1 ml of saliva to test tube A and leave both test tubes undisturbed for half an hour. Now add few drops of dilute iodine solution to both the test tubes on the basis of your observation. In which test tube would you observe color change? So what did we do? We had taken the starch in both the test tubes. In only the first test tube we had added saliva. In the second we did not add. And now after some time, half an hour, 1 hour, we are adding iodine in both. Okay. So now in the first test tube, starch is there, saliva is there, and then iodine. Will this show the blue black color?
No, ma'am.
क्यों नहीं?
Ma'am, because the saliva digests the starch into maltose.
The saliva has the enzyme salivary amylase. So now that we are adding the starch and then adding small amount of saliva, the enzyme in the saliva will not keep the starch as it is. The starch is already partially digested to maltose. But iodine will test only starch, not maltose. Iodine is not an indicator for maltose or simple sugar. So the reason that we will write is iodine is an indicator only for starch. It is not an indicator for any other type of glucose or simple sugar. But what about the other test tube? Starch, no saliva, iodine. This will show blue-black color because the starch is intact. It did not get broken down. Okay, so we are discussing often on certain questions, the ones which are a bit difficult. Always I am discussing in the class and giving you some points also. But you will have to make it a point as in when you read. What are the extra questions? In the review section, there are so many questions given for nutrition, respiration. Go through few questions so that next time if I give you some more, you should be also able to understand. We are going to talk about transportation, now the third segment of the chapter. Transportation. What are we going to understand for transportation? Let us first of all start with the concept of blood. Blood vessels. So what is the need? Transportation, now that we start discussing, what is the need for transportation? When we are talking about transportation, what is the meaning? Transportation means we are talking about presence of a fluid inside our body. Presence of a fluid known as the body fluid inside our body. What is the prominent body fluid in our body? Blood. There is one more body fluid known as lymph. Blood gives rise to lymph. So now, what is the need of such type of a body fluid in a complex organism like us? A complex organism like us has got so many cells. Can the process of diffusion supply oxygen to the deeper cells of our body? No. Hence the need of a body. So what is this body fluid doing? Now that the blood we talk about, what is this blood doing? The blood reaches every particular corner of our body. Numerous blood vessels are there. Finest blood vessels are there. So now that we are talking about these finest blood vessels, they reach out to every particular region of our body, right from the tip of our toes to the neurons of our brain. So now they are supplying nutrition to the cells in our head region also, fingertips also, toes of the legs also, everywhere they are supplying nutrition. They are supplying nutrition, they are supplying hormones, they are distributing nutrients, they are supplying so many other different type of ions, chemical components, etc. So that's the need of a vascular system or the body fluid. Now, what is the composition of the body fluid? Now, if you have to talk about the blood to understand, to start with the concept of transportation, yes, transportation. What is the requisite? Presence of a body fluid. What is the primary body fluid that we have in our body? Complex organisms like vertebrates. We have got blood as the primary body fluid. What is the composition of the blood?
Red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets and plasma.
And plasma. So first of all, you should always write, whenever we are talking about the concept of blood and transportation, so we are starting with the third part of the chapter and starting with the first topic, that is blood. So when we are talking about the composition, what is the composition of blood? The composition of blood, always to be remembered, blood is made up of the liquid part known as plasma. How do you define plasma? It is the liquid part of the blood. And what is? Next is, we talk about blood cells. What are blood cells? Known as, blood cells are known as corpuscles. Corpuscles. Blood cells are known as corpuscles. Now what is this plasma made up of? Is this plasma colored? No. The plasma is, it is not colorless. We would say that the plasma is actually not colorless. It is slightly yellowish in color. The plasma is slightly yellowish in color. What is the reason? Then what is this plasma composed of? The plasma has a large amount of water. It has got so many different type of salts. It has got the hormones dissolved in it. So what is the major composition of the plasma? Variety of ions, proteins dissolved in it. So this plasma has got adequate amount of water and hormones and proteins and salts and ions dissolved in it. How much of the plasma do we have, or how much of the blood do we have in our body? Are you aware? How much of the blood do we have in our body?
2 liters.
कितना? अब ये कुछ ज़्यादा है. So, 5 to 6 liters. So when we are talking about how much of the blood do we have in our body, you should be aware. How much of the blood do we have in our body? Normally 5 to 6 liters. So when I talk about a person having more than 6.5, 7 liters of blood or less, is a severe case of anemia. Okay, we'll talk about this when we are talking about that in this 5 to 6 liters of blood, what is the proportion of corpuscles and what is the proportion of the plasma? The plasma is almost about
70%.
The plasma is almost about 50-55%, and the rest is all the corpuscles. So the corpuscles, are they dissolved in the plasma? No, they are all suspended. You can see the corpuscles. They are not dissolved in the plasma. Now corpuscles, when we are talking about, what is the difference between any other body cell and the blood cells? There are so many to talk about. No, not all. Only one type of cell does not have the nucleus. Yes. So if I talk about, there are so many differences you should remember. When we are talking about what are some special features, the red blood cells, white blood cells and the platelets, why are they given the special name corpuscles? Is because they are not following the general rule for the other body cells. Now, what are some, at least 2, 3 you should know. What are some special features that the corpuscles have and the other body cells doesn't have? She already mentioned that one type of cell does not have the nucleus.
Micro cells can change their shape.
Exactly. And the very important thing is, when I talk about the cells of the skin, the bone, the liver, etc., the cells of the rest of the parts of our body constantly keep on dividing on their own and they grow. These type of blood cells that we are talking about, they cannot divide. They don't show any division. But then, if they don't show any division, then how is it possible that they are present in millions?
The bone marrow part present in the bone can create cells.
Exactly. So when we are talking about the bone marrow, are you aware which is the bone marrow? What is bone marrow?
Inside the bone.
The central portion of the long bones only. I'm talking about the long bones only. For example, the ribs, you already know the ribs, the femur, the hand bone, these are long bones, not the bones of the toes and the fingers. The long bones of our body, the central nutritive canal of the long bones, they are the site where these blood cells are formed. So I just now mentioned that how are these cells, say, peculiar or say specialized in comparison with the other type of cells of our body. Number one, certain type of cells doesn't have nucleus, but apart from the blood cells, we don't come across any other cell in our body which does not have the nucleus. Number two, some of these cells can change shapes. Change shapes to do what? To reach the site of infection and kill the germs. Number three, the other type of cell, when we are talking about, there are one type of cells which are constantly helping in healing up wounds and etc. The third feature that I talk about is, unlike the rest of the cells of our body, these type of cells do not show any division and growth, but they are present in millions. So there are so many features to talk about. What are the different types of cells? Number one, red blood cells, also known as RBCs. White blood cells, also known as WBCs. And platelets, the third type of cells known as platelets. Now, if you look into the image that I show you, all the three types of cells you can see here, the red blood cells generally having a compressed shape. It is known as a biconcave shape. So what is the basic shape? At least one or two features and functions you should be aware. You'll have to remember the functions very specific. So when I talk about the RBCs are all like this, very small, numerous, they are present in millions, and all of them, they have got a depressed, compressed structure like this. They are depressed in the center. Why? They don't have a nucleus. This is one special feature for the RBCs. They don't have the nucleus, but they have got large amount of hemoglobin. So one specific feature of the RBCs, they are enucleated, meaning they don't have the nucleus, but they possess the respiratory pigment known as hemoglobin. About hemoglobin, quite a number of features you know now. What is its function, where is it present, what is its role, etc. What is the function of RBCs? What is the prominent function of RBCs? You already know?
The
transport of respiratory gases, oxygen, carbon dioxide, both. So what is the most important function of the RBC that you should remember? It helps in the transport of respiratory gases. That means we are talking about oxygen and carbon dioxide. I talk about WBCs, white blood cells. From the term itself, they are colorless, much bigger in size as compared to the RBCs. So these WBCs that we are talking about, do they have the nucleus? Yes, they have got large nucleus. WBCs, they have got large nucleus and varied shapes. In our body, in our blood, there are 5 types of WBCs, okay? So now these 5 types of WBCs, they are having different shapes. Functions are also different. The shapes of the cells, the nucleus different. One special feature of the WBCs are, they are amoeboid. All of you will take a note of this word, write it down. Amoeba. What is the meaning of amoeba? They can change shapes.
Just like amoeba.
Just like amoeba. That's the word amoeba. So when we are talking about the WBCs, they can change shapes from time to time through the finest folds of the blood vessel. The RBCs cannot come out, but the WBCs can come out. They can become long, slender, thin, and then they can come out of the blood vessels also. What is the job of the WBCs in the body? The
To fight
WBCs
against infection.
infection.
Bacteria, viruses.
Correct. So now, what I'm going to write as functions, the WBCs can show, WBCs always provide immunity, that already you know, they are the defense cells of our body, but what do they do? How do they provide us defense? They undergo the process known as phagocytosis and also release some chemical substances in the blood which gives us immunity, protection from microbes.
Antibodies.
Yes, these are known as, various are there, so we prominently talk about antibodies. There are some more also. So the WBCs provide defense. How? By eating up the bacteria just like a amoeba does. Amoeba is not eating up bacteria, but the process of eating up food. How does the amoeba take in food? Phagocytosis. So the WBCs eats up germs by this method, phagocytosis. But the WBCs also release variety of chemical substances in the plasma, because of which we are safe from variety of different type of pathogens and germs. What are those chemical substances? Known as, prominently one type of chemical substances known as antibodies. This provides us immunity. We'll have to continue after the break. Take a break, we'll continue again after the
Phagocytosis and antibodies.
Really?